If you carry a firearm and discharge your weapon in self-defense, you could face hundreds of thousands of dollars in legal fees and expenses. So carry the protection of CCW Safe, Self-Defense Legal Services membership. Upfront payment of all criminal and civil defense costs with no out-of-pocket for members.
Imagine this scenario. It's 9:47 a.m. Dozens of cell towers serving a small, mid-sized American city go dark inside of 3 minutes. Not a technical glitch, a coordinated strike. Internet routing in the same zone starts dropping packets. The emergency broadcast system activates, but the transmitter is already overloaded and clipping out. Your phone shows 2 bars, then 1, then nothing. Jihadi terrorists in America and cyber attackers have just triggered the opening phase of a nationwide communications blackout. And nobody knows it yet because the only tools they had to find out are gone. Jihadi terrorists and state-sponsored cyber attackers are the primary enemy driving tonight's threat analysis. This network doesn't operate like a conventional military. It deploys assets embedded inside target countries, pre-positions them against infrastructure choke points, and activates them during periods of maximum chaos. Right now, IRGC-affiliated cyber units are actively targeting U.S. programmable logic controllers across energy, water, and municipal sectors. It's not a future scenario. CISA confirmed it April 7th. What they want is simple. Blind the population before the kinetic phase of the attack begins. Welcome to Survival Dispatch News. It's April 15th, 2026. I'm Chris Evans, the CEO of Survival Dispatch. I'm joined by combat wounded Green Beret Randy Nance, 26-year CIA case officer Jeff MD, and 26-year military veteran Don Vandergriff. Bottom line up front, once jihadis strike American soil and the grid begins to destabilize, communications infrastructure degrades in a specific and predictable cascade. Cellular, internet, emergency broadcast, and populations go blind before they go dark. You can't defend your family with information you can't receive, and the first thing a coordinated attack kills is your ability to know what's happening. So what we're covering tonight is how the comms collapse sequence unfolds, what the current Iranian cyber campaign tells us about the pre-attack playbook, and what every American family needs to build before this window closes. Terrorists and cyber attackers have the ability to inflict nationwide communications blackouts, and that's a survival problem. Every secure radio link, emergency dispatch system, and real-time decision tool runs on copper-heavy infrastructure that will collapse under attack. The problem is most of our network infrastructure is built in China and has backdoors built in. In order to secure our infrastructure, we need to build more components domestically. That will require significant volumes of copper. While the mainstream media sleeps, the U.S. government is moving under emergency authorities to secure domestic critical mineral supply. They just named the Palmer Project in Alaska as a priority under the immediate measures to increase American mineral production. Vizsla Copper owns 100% of the Palmer Project, a high-grade copper zinc asset with billions in in-ground value, road access to tidewater, and a defined resource ready to advance. Copper powers the comms and power systems you'll need when cell towers and internet switches fail in clusters. Vizsla Copper received a letter of support from the Alaskan governor and just approved a $13.7 million 2026 exploration budget, including 10,000 meters of drilling at Palmer, backed by the same team that built Vizsla Silver into a billion-dollar company. They're executing fast. When comms collapse and supply chains tighten, government-backed domestic mineral projects in the ground are what hold value. Similar Alaskan assets with this support have moved over 200%. Vizsla Copper trades as VCUFF in the US and VCU.V in Canada. This is your chance to stand behind America's future. Position accordingly. Thanks to Vizsla Copper for making tonight's podcast possible. So jumping directly into segment number 1, the institutional failure map. Who breaks first when comms die? The moment communications infrastructure degrades past a certain threshold, institutions that depend on centralized coordination, law enforcement, dispatch, hospital networks, municipal emergency management, fracture along their weakest dependency chains first, long before the public realizes the system is failing. Emergency services operate on radio and cellular backhaul that share the same physical tower infrastructure as commercial networks, meaning a cluster failure that kills your phone signal simultaneously degrades the 911 dispatch chain in the same geographic footprint. The 2026 DNI Worldwide Threats Assessment confirmed that the electric grid and communication systems face a severe threat from hostile actors. And the FBI stopped 4 separate ISIS-inspired attacks in a single month in late 2025, which means the operational tempo for a coordinated strike is not theoretical, it's near term. This is exactly why becoming a Survival Dispatch News Guardian matters right now. Guardians get immediate access to our private member community, assistance with SHTF comms, and the full Survival Dispatch Blackout playbook, so you and your family stay informed and decisive while networks crumble around you. You can sign up at survivaldispatch.news. So Jeff MD, I'm going to come to you first per usual. Jeff, when a cluster of cell towers fails simultaneously, what's the realistic window before 911 dispatch in that zone starts missing calls entirely?
Almost instantly, because most people don't have landlines anymore. I don't. My wife and I, we have cell phones. So if the cell phone goes down in your area and your phone will search out the next available tower. But if you take out enough towers, and if there's geographic problems with mountains and things like that, your phone may not be able to connect to the next tower. The next tower is maybe 30 miles away, and your phone doesn't have the power to do that. More importantly, everybody else's phone will also be trying to connect to the next tower, and that tower will become overwhelmed. So the odds of you getting through to 911 anytime soon are slim to none. If you have a landline, yes, landlines, especially old school landlines, actually have battery backups, big vaults with big lead acid batteries from back in the day. So that's why in the old days, if the power went out, your phone still worked. It's a DC system. It's very simple, and it can run on batteries. And those batteries, they're designed, they can last for days. But nobody has those anymore. So you're pretty well screwed with your cell phones.
That's a great point, Jeff, because I know the guy who has the contract for this part of Central Florida to keep cell towers up. And I asked him a couple of years ago, I said, well, how long are they going to stay up on batteries and generators? And he said, some of them that have larger generators can stay up for a day or two. He said, but most of them don't have generators. They have battery backups. And in that case, he said, you're looking at maybe 4 to 8 hours on average. So it's definitely grid goes down, then comm starts to cascade after that. Randy, everything in hospitals today is digitized, right? Like all the communications, bed management, prescriptions, pretty much everything you can possibly imagine. So if the networks go down completely, and a lot of that stuff, by the way, in hospitals, of course, isn't just inside the building, right? Because they're working with third parties. So it actually goes outside the building to do things like work on pharmaceuticals and stuff. I know you don't work in the hospital field, Randy, but give me your thoughts on how fast you think patient care will degrade when all the network stuff is down.
Well, I think it'll, just like Jeff said about the phones or 911, it's going to be pretty quickly. I would assume that's going to happen very fast. And further to that point, it's just like we've talked about, not recently, but over the last year, about what the probability of law enforcement officers are going to stay on the job once, something kicks off like this. Are they going to stay on the job, or they're going to go protect their own family? Yeah. I would imagine that the medical staff will be very similar. And then, a lot of them are not going to want to come into work knowing what's out there. So I would say probably right away. I know somebody just mentioned here, CDA said if you plug your phone into a landline, it will call 911. Well, I wonder, do you know as if it's already powered on? Because, everywhere you went, you had to get your phones turned on. They had to come in and power your house up, or those switches didn't work. And in fact, I have a brand new house. And, honestly, I think there might be one or two, but there might not even be one phone jack in here for a phone, because my home was built in 2017. And by then, phones, nobody really cared about having a home phone, and faxes were outdated. So I would imagine the medical system won't be any different. There'll be panic mode, certainly on the smaller ones. And then as time goes by and you go into the second, third day, a week later, how many of these people are actually going to go to work? Probably not many.
Yeah, I would throw in just on the 911 thing that the 911 systems go down way more frequently than people realize.
Yeah,
and anybody who's worked as a first responder, especially law enforcement, will tell you that it's astonishing how often it happens. It happens so often that we have SOPs pretty much across the country that if 911 fails in your county, then it shunts to another county and they look after fielding the calls and dispatching your people. But it can cascade at times. Happens in California frequently, by the way. So speaking of law enforcement, Don, law enforcement mutual aid, where one law enforcement agency needs backup, needs additional bodies, and they ask for mutual aid from surrounding areas. That depends 100% on radio interoperability. And there's a lot of problems where agencies don't have the interoperability that they should. But let's assume that they do have that interoperability. My question to you is, how many jurisdictions do you reckon, Don, have hardened, redundant comms that would survive a grid hit, for example?
I would say only the very large police districts, the large cities, if that, because of all the budget cuts. Like there was a big report today about how many officers New York City is losing because of the communist government. And also they want to cut the budget again to the police. So the last thing that's going to come along is hardening against a strike, your comm system, because again, it'll never happen here. One of the reasons I had to resign my job in Afghanistan at the Resolute Support level, the strategic headquarters, because I kept saying we need to test our SOPs if all the electricity goes down and all our computer systems go down. And they didn't want to do that. They didn't want to train for that, even though it was a likely scenario. You don't think the Taliban had planned for that if they ever did a mass attack? It's the same here. No one trains for that. No one, like we've been talking about in the series lately, an SOP drill where you automatically drive to a link-up point and at least team up with other people and start making decentralized decisions. And that's something that when I told you guys I was my fourth military fiction book came out, that's what people end up doing. The whole grid is shut down from many attacks, which if you guys have driven just outside the suburbs, you see these electric transfer stations that are just one little fence around it, could easily be taken out. Okay. And you shut down that system, and then cell towers are even worse, easy to shut down. And I will bet you no one does that drill where, what do we do if we lose comms? I mean, have any of you guys heard or anybody doing a drill? No, because it's uncomfortable. It's very uncomfortable, even though they could come up with systems to overcome it. So if the big cities have some kind of redundant system, they don't train for it.
So you raised some great points, by the way, there, Don. So first and foremost, coming from high tech in the comms world,
yep.
I can tell you that not many agencies have redundant comms, for starters. So you're right on the money with that one. The second piece, as far as your comments on training, we put together this thing post 9/11 1.0 called NIMS.
It's excellent.
And I know a bunch of people who did the NIMS training and did the NIMS training exercises at their facility each year. And I haven't found a single person who's done them in the past 10 years And especially at hospitals, what I was told was that most hospital CEOs say, we're not going to do that because technically to maintain your certification. So for those people who aren't aware of this, this is how hospitals and other government agencies are supposed to react under things like terrorist attacks, could be a natural calamity, whatever the case may be. And this is just a field manual, and it's much like your Ranger book, Randy. You got to have, it's an eye test, put it that way.
It's excellent, though. That's a great start point.
So where I was going with that is the hospital CEOs have told their teams. I know a guy who was the head at a hospital, like he volunteered, but he took on this role, and the CEO said to him, yeah, we're not doing any of those drills because, you're supposed to do it every 6 months to maintain your certification. He said, yeah, we're not giving up 2 days worth of revenue, period. So we're not going to do it, which it's exactly what you said. They're just not doing the things that they should be doing. But with that being said, Jeff, coming back to you, FEMA and state emergency management operate on the assumption that at least some comms are going to survive a disaster. What's their contingency when none do? Like, how does FEMA and state emergency plan on operating when all of the comms are wiped off?
Yeah, I honestly don't know, because if they're planning on using cell phones can go down very, very easily. What people also don't realize is when you call a cell tower, cell tower can relay to another cell tower, but more than likely it's dropping down and connecting to a fiber backbone and going out over fiber because it can handle more volume. Fiber optic is much more efficient at transmitting data than cell towers are, or the cell system. So if you don't even have to lose the cell tower, you just got to lose the fiber. And when a fiber crosses a river, a lot of times it's on a bridge, and if there's a flood and the bridge gets wiped out, electric, fiber, gas a lot of times go with it, because a lot of times those gas pipelines will also use the bridge. So if that goes down, then they're going to be stuck with radios. Well, radios, as we all know on the show, there are limitations to radios depending on what type you have. You've got line of sight, you've got terrain, you've got all sorts of things. You're not going to get on a local radio like a cop's radio and talk to somebody 50 miles away. They don't go that far. There's a line of sight issue, frequency issues, all sorts of stuff. So I don't know what the hell they're going to do. Now, the best thing they could do would be satellite, because satellites aren't affected by what goes on in the ground except for where they come down, where the earth stations are. And if the satellite is above you but the earth station is hundreds and hundreds of miles away, your satellite's not going to be affected. But that would be about the only thing they could do, is the sat phone.
Well, Jeff, how many people inside of FEMA distributed across the country do you think are proficient ham operators?
None.
Yeah, I would hazard to guess none or very few, that's for sure.
Well, but even then with ham, people can get on your frequency and some other ham operator can be, and you'll be talking over each other. They're not really that isolated unless you have, special chips, or you get a sideband or something. But for the most part, it's like on a CB radio to a certain degree, where if you're on channel 19 and 20 other people are on channel 19, you're going to be talking over each other.
Yeah, so their radios and a lot of consumer radios now have what's called CTCSS. And what it does is it broadcasts a tone for all of the radios that are part of your group. You can even get this on the little bubble FRSs.
Yeah.
And what that means is that the radios in your group, even if somebody's on the same channel as you and they don't have this tone going, which is below the level that we can hear, they won't play it. You have the CTCSS code has to match, the tone has to match on both ends. So there is a way to deal with the congestion when you have that. But the downside to it, of course, is everything is unencrypted. Most of the stuff, unless you got Harris radios, those sort of things. And I'm sure
and all your people have to know how to use them.
Well, for sure. Yeah.
And this is a system that nobody uses every day. This is the emergency backup, dig it out of the trunk of the car system. And you're like, oh, crap, someone told me how to use this 5 years ago and I don't remember.
Yeah, 100%. No argument there whatsoever. So actually, like in that vein, Randy, what do you reckon when the emergency broadcast systems share the same, tower infrastructure with commercial cellular? How do you broadcast an alert when the towers triggering the alert are the same ones that just went dark?
Well, you're not going to. They won't be spreading a message at that point, will you? Anybody will. It's funny though. I don't know if you've noticed in the chat over here. So apparently, and I did Google it in the interim when Jeff was speaking.
Okay.
So apparently, California, they started in 2019. They declared ham radios were no longer actually useful. So they took some of the towers down. But now, even in this past year, apparently, let's see, where was that one comment? I'm sorry. Hang on a second.
Yeah, no. So, Randy, are you saying that the state government decommissioned?
Yeah. So it's saying the state is arguing that some, but not all ham radio equipment no longer provides a necessary modern benefit for public safety. That's what he's saying. And so apparently they're even removing some of the privately owned repeaters for the ham radios. And I would, so my point to that is, I wonder how many other states are doing this and how many are going to by the time this all plays out. That's kind of what my question will be now, because we know if they're starting it in California, they're probably not the only ones. And we do know if they want to shut down communications, they're going to want to do those too, because they're not going to want to give us any options.
Yeah. So, I mean, the good news is, as far as ham radio is concerned, it's really difficult to shut it down unless you have something in relatively close proximity to people to, block the frequencies that they're using. But
well, we don't know what they got though, Chris. We now know they have a discombobulator that will jack up an entire element of people. So there's really no telling what, you know what I mean? And I don't know. I guess we'll find out.
Yeah, I'm sure we will. I'm surprised that California would say something that retarded, just based on the fact that.
Well, dude, look what's going on with the whole Swalwell thing, man. Because you know what the deal is with that, right? Because they changed their rules in voting for governor, where it's the top two, the two that have the most votes, and party don't matter. So right now it's two Republicans, and they've screwed themselves. They accused Swalwell of splitting the vote. He didn't want to drop out of the race, so his usefulness came up, and it's a perfect Democrat play. We knew what he was doing all along, but now that he's in the way, we're going to dime him out, make him resign.
Yep. So what I was going to say though is, like, OTA over the air, that's all we have left for emergency comms is private citizens. Ham radio, shortwave radio, high frequency, all that good stuff, right? So yeah, it's pretty crazy. But anyway, moving on from there. So Don, the DNI confirmed that hostile actors pose a severe threat to the electric grid and our communication systems. At what point does institutional pre-planning for this scenario become criminally negligent, given what we know? Like, there's very little that's going on. It's not glamorous, like Jeff has pointed out before. The emergency broadcast system goes up and down like a toilet seat.
We are very reactive. We've talked about this before. We're very reactive. We get something done to us, we get hit, and then we start training for the reaction. And it's the same today. And I mean, we've been blessed on one hand to have the two largest moats in the world, the Atlantic and Pacific Ocean, but that's faded away due to global reach with transportation, with cyber warfare, as well as when the party that says they're for democracy opens up your border and lets millions, tens of millions of people unvetted into your nation. So, but even with all that, people are reactive. Just like I said, I'm in the middle of a combat zone where we're getting hits all the time. And the last thing the generals wanted to do is lose their comms, lose their ability to see PowerPoint and everyone to have their Excel spreadsheets to track a war, which they were inaccurate on, just to do a drill to test an SOP. What if our electricity goes down in the various fobs around Kabul? And they didn't want to do it. And it was a likely thing. It's the same today. It's just horrible. Criminal neglect is the right word. because we are so risk averse. Even doing a drill that will help you make you better is very risky career wise to most people. The people that speak about it are the mavericks that get pushed out or end up like all of us, where we're trying to make things better for people because it's not about us, but no one else feels that way. Just like Randy brought up a thing about California. Hell, they're trying to pass a law to protect fraud. The Nick Shirley bill. I mean,
That's right. That's right.
Come on. I mean, that's absolutely. They're not even disguising their criminality anymore. You think the last thing they're going to worry about is protecting the grids, because they all think, oh, I have generators, I'll be protected, just like their own security and behind their own wall security. It's beyond criminal neglect. It's absolute arrogance.
Yeah. So what Don's speaking of, for those of you not familiar with it, California is fixing to pass a law that makes it illegal to investigate, uncover, and broadcast fraud that's occurring in the state of California. Like, it's just straight. It's unbelievable is what it is. So Jeff, quick closing comment on your part, because it's a pretty short question, but what does historical precedent tell us, whether it was 9/11 1.0, Katrina, even the Berlin blackout a couple months ago in January, as far as how fast institutional communications fails?
They fail very quickly, like all communications, because institutional communications don't have some sort of magic bullet. There is very little that's going to be available to local law enforcement, EMTs, that kind of thing, that isn't available in one form or another to the general public. I mean, they don't have some super laser radio system or anything like that. They have radios, they have cell phones. They, maybe if you're lucky, they have sat phones, maybe, which would make sense in a much more rural or mountainous area. But short of that, they're going to fail like everybody else's.
Yeah, true story. So we're going to jump into segment number 2 now, the IRGC Cyber Pre-Attack Playbook, what April the 7th told us. So CISA's April 7th joint advisory with the FBI and NSA confirmed that Iranian-affiliated APT actors, and that's an active, I forgot the acronym now, active something threat, anyway, have been actively exploiting internet-facing programmable logic controllers across U.S. energy, water, and municipal infrastructure since at least March 2026. I'd reckon it goes way back further than that. This is the pre-positioning phase that precedes a kinetic strike, the stuff that Khalid speaks to frequently. The IRGC proxy cyber doctrine uses manipulation of SCADA and HMI display data to blind operators first, meaning to take away their dashboards or to take away new information coming to their dashboard so they can make intelligent decisions. And what that does is it makes the grid controllers appear to be stable while the physical systems are being pushed to failure. And that's a direct communications attack before a single tower goes dark, for example. Somewhere between 600,000 and 2 million PLCs are deployed across U.S. critical infrastructure right now, and many run on legacy operating systems that were never designed to survive the current threat environment, meaning the attack surface for a coordinated comms collapse. It's not hypothetical, pardon me, it's preloaded. And if you want real-time tracking of this threat instead of hearing about it after the systems go dark, that's exactly why I built Survival Dispatch News Guardians. 33 cents a day. Guardians get early warning indicators and direct access to our team, so you're not left behind when the networks fail. You can sign up at survivaldispatch.news. So, Jeff, I'm going to come right back to you since that last one was a short one. The CISA advisory confirmed operational disruption and financial loss at a facility let me back up here a second. The CISA advisory confirmed operational disruption and financial loss at victim sites. What does that look like at a facility that controls power distribution to a cluster of cell towers, cell infrastructure?
Well, what you do is it's a false multiplier. I mean, if you can take out a power distribution system that covers a broad area, you're going to take down all the cell towers in that area with it. Not immediately, because they got battery backups and they got generators. But if you can't get that back online or you somehow work around it relatively quickly. As soon as they run out of battery or as soon as they run out of diesel for their generators, the cell system is going to go down and stay down. And I don't think they're going to be prioritizing running diesel out to all these cell towers to make sure their backup Jennies work, or trying to, plug them into get a frickin' portable Honda generator out there. They're not set up that way. So yeah, it's going to be a problem. I mean, and that's the way you do it. You don't go after the communications grid so much as you go after the electric power grid, because everything depends on the power grid.
Yeah,
Water, power, everything.
First world country, third world power grid.
You got it.
So Jeff, just a quick close on that. When the network operation centers, the NOCs, realize that they're losing power at their cell phone towers, they're on battery backup, or they're running on a generator. I don't know the answer to this. When does it kick in that they flip it over to prioritize FirstNet, so that you and I don't get any priority, but first responders do?
Well, that'll happen relatively quickly, I would think, because FirstNet are, EMTs, police, FEMA, all that. And you calling Aunt Millie to say you're okay, or to finding out if she's okay, isn't really high on their priority list, because it's not that important, especially not to them. And I don't blame them. If you're worried about an attack on your society, that's not calling your sister to see if she's okay is not a big priority. But that will roll over relatively quickly. You may see portable cell towers go up, the kind they can bring in for large events like big football games and things like that. Maybe taking some of the pressure off in certain areas. But like if you have an attack on a hospital and the grid goes down, I could see them bringing in a mobile cell tower just for the first responders. But locals aren't going to be able to access that.
Yeah, for sure. JJ Morris, who's been in all kinds of calamities when he was a search and rescue technician, said they had to be careful not to let anybody see them on their phones, because the second they saw that they had a signal on the phone, they would be swarmed by people saying, hey, I need to call my family in another state, those sort of things. Somebody asked a question, went by in the comments, what's the likelihood of someone having a satellite computer in a hospital, though? I wouldn't phrase it that way, but I can tell you that multiple hospitals here in Florida have satellite communications. They have dishes on the roof, and they have that. Yep. So I'm assuming that y'all have them in Arizona as well, Jeff. I know we have them in Texas. Have to assume that Virginia has them, where Don is as well. So SATCOMs is actually fairly common thing. So Randy, that part I was talking about, where the bullshit data gets sent to the operators, like SCADA manipulation, and it's feeding false normal data to operators, like a movie, right? Where somebody puts up a picture, like an actual picture of a room in front of a surveillance camera, and the guy sitting there looking at the camera is like, oh, there's nothing going on in that room. It's a similar type of tactic where they send false information, and it was used against Ukraine's grid. The Russians used it in 2016. And I don't think that we've hardened any of our stuff, to be quite frank about it. You might have the odd pocket where somebody's a real go-getter and has done something, but best I can tell, all of our infrastructure, it's legacy stuff, man. It's not secure.
Well, here's the truth. We are expendable, right? We're the little people, and we really don't matter anymore. And I think, unfortunately for us, we seem to be now in the way of those people. And those people, what I mean by is the aristocrats, the elite, wealthy, the global elitist, and the upper echelons of our government, and probably several others. I guarantee you all their stuff is hardened and all their stuff is ready. But there is not one thing, and I guarantee you there will be not one thing that they have prepared for this. Why do you think all these shows are coming out, like the one you mentioned earlier? I never watched one of them because I thought it was so freaking stupid. The Undead, or whatever that show was.
The Walking Dead?
The Walking Dead. But here's reality. They're just preemptively getting you ready for what's coming, folks. They're letting you know now. That's how it's going to be. So when you say that, Chris, to me, it only makes sense that they haven't done one thing And that's why all this stuff is left, whether it be all of our utilities, the water, and everything else is all left the way it is, old, decrepit, and decaying, because what's coming, there's no doubt they want to rid a bunch of us off the planet, and we are expendable. Now that they got AI and, with the robots taking off, they're not going to need us little people to do the little jobs anymore. And guess what happens to us then, folks?
Yeah. Toast, gone. So, but Cindy and I ask this rhetorical question on a frequent basis when we see something from Hollywood, and then lo and behold, a year or two later, it actually unfolds that way. So does life imitate art, or does art imitate life?
No, I think that's them preemptively getting us ready for it, because, it's a fact and it's been proven. I wish I had the complete details, but basically if they kind of broke it off to you, and even in movies and stuff like that, so later when it happens, it's not as big of a shock, and you're like, oh well, it's no different than how did they get the Americans and the world basically to accept people being gay and gay people getting married together, putting it all over the airways constantly, even though no one wanted it.
Jeff, did you want to
programming? There you go.
Predictive.
That's what it is. Predictive. Yeah.
Jeff, did you want to add
and
something?
Preemptive? I'm sorry, and preemptive.
Yeah, I think there's a lot of art imitating life and life imitating art. When you look at stuff like The Walking Dead, okay, apocalyptic movies have been around forever, and before there were apocalyptic movies, there were apocalyptic books. I remember one of my favorite science fiction books that I read when I was a kid back in the 70s was called Starman's Son. It was about post-apocalyptic Earth. All the cities were gone and people were living as tribes. So that's been around. And it's just, I think it's kind of a human nature thing. If you think about society, you go, okay, what would happen? What if society collapsed? And, I've written books like that. I think we all have. I don't think they're in cahoots with Hollywood to say, we need to condition the people for this. I think the reason those things are successful is because it appeals to people's dark side. Same reason people like horror movies. Now, it's not like they want to go out and get murdered, but people like horror movies. They like that being scared. And that's a horror movie on a societal scale. And you look at Walking Dead, okay, they have zombies. There's no such thing as zombies. But man, it makes for entertaining television.
Yes, there is. SSRIs.
Well, that's true. And some of the guys down in Florida who did the bath salts. But if you shoot them, they die.
Yeah. Did you
see
like
a zombie? You can just open up on them, and then the head keeps talking.
Jeff, did you see the video, or Randy and Don as well, where there was a guy, he's got his face like right in the Ring doorbell last weekend. Open this door, blah, 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 and all that stuff. Somebody, I can't remember who it was, posted some information yesterday. I played it last night that guy is on like some massive dose of SSRIs. They came out and said he's gone cuckoo from the crap, the pharmaceuticals.
That's no shock.
Yeah, exactly. So, Don, the IRGC has threatened to target 18 major U.S. tech companies. So, Microsoft, Apple, Google, Cisco, and more. If even a couple of those are disrupted simultaneously, what do you reckon happens to the backbone of American internet routing, especially stuff like, I didn't mention Amazon. The Amazon AWS powers a shit ton of stuff.
Yep.
And you've got Cisco is the biggest, name and player in networking. What happens when that stuff gets taken out, Don?
Well, there was life before the internet. Unfortunately, guys like the four of us remember it, but the younger generations don't. And my wife and I just every day go on an internet blackout for a while.
Right on.
And that internet blackout is where we actually get more attuned to what's going on around us and with each other when we go somewhere. But people, like I've said before in this show, I took my stepson and his son, my grandson, to the Manassas Museum, and I told them leave their phones in the truck. And I said, come over and sit around. Count how many people are out there looking at their phone, walking around the museum. 33 people. Not one of them. Every one of them looking at their phone. So it's going to be a big shock. But is it something we can go without? Sure, we'll be able to adapt to it. It's just the fact that, again, our generation and the generation right below us have known how to go without the internet, and it might even be a good thing because it might unify us more. In my opinion, the internet, particularly social media, has given a platform to anybody who thinks they're an expert, and done all kind of damage. I mean, it's also helped us bypass the mainstream media, which is really a propaganda arm of the Democratic Party. So there's good things too.
Yeah, well, I would say a propaganda wing of the globalists, right? I mean, yeah. I've said for years, Democrats, Republicans, two different sides of the same coin. In fact, the matter is the Democrats' sole purpose is to wreck America so that the globalists can get their wet dream of one moral government, and the Republicans' job is to make it appear like there's some sort of opposition to them, when in reality there's no opposition. They're all on the same team.
That's an excellent point. I do not connect with either party.
Yeah, no, it's all theatrics, right? So, Jeff, coming back to you. So Iran now has been under near complete internet blackout since February 28th. What effect does that have on their cyber units? Because they're pretty prolific black hats at the end of the day.
Well, I'm just about guarantee you the government has access to the internet. They shut it down. We didn't shut it down. And all they really need are, you get a Starlink and you have an alias account, and then you link, you connect to a VPN in Europe somewhere, and then you're off and running. So I think their guys can still do it because they don't have to have, fiber optic backbone. They can go through commercial satellite. They can use an Inmarsat. They can use a VSAT. There's a lot of systems out there, and I'm sure the IRGC has many, I want to say they're fake accounts, but alias accounts that don't say IRGC on them. And once it goes out there, it's just packets.
Yeah, for sure, for sure. So, Randy, would it surprise you that when the alarms start going off at utilities, saying that their SCADA systems are being overloaded, that they're operating outside of normal parameters, they could be overheating, running electric motors, all that sort of stuff. Would it surprise you that the response window is about 10 minutes on average? And what do you reckon happens in the middle of the night when somebody launches an attack that overloads, utilities and smokes all of their SCADA systems in the middle of the night just because they cranked a whole bunch of energy through them?
Well, I mean, you look at it when we have a storm and it goes down, certainly bad enough in any area, they don't have it up within 10 minutes at any point in time. Sometimes you get lucky. But depending on the area, I don't know. So I've been lucky. All mine in this neighborhood are underground. So we really, in the 8 years I've lived here, even back, 3 or 4 years ago when we had the big ice storm that shut down Texas and the power went and all that, some people lost power for 12 hours and then they had kind of roaming power like we talked about previously on the show. And I think I only lost power maybe twice. I know I did for sure once. I think it might have been twice, but both times it was less than 30 minutes. So the house didn't even start to even remotely get cold when that happened, and then the power's back on. So, it'll be interesting to see what the difference in those are, but I guarantee up in the Northeast and some of these older places, they're probably not going to get power back for quite some time. And again, if it's serious enough, as we've talked about, it isn't going to matter how quick, they get those folks out there to start looking at it. They're not going to get it back up.
Yeah, well, my point is when you overload those SCADA systems and they have typically a 10-minute window before they fail, there's nobody's getting to them in time. Once they're overloaded and they're going down, it's not like there's somebody sleeping at the utility plant and goes,
"Oh, that's right." They don't have don't have an emergency team just standing by waiting waiting for that call. And again, then if we're talking about like in one area, now if this goes several states or all 50 states, you think about that. Jeez.
Yeah, no kidding, no kidding. So, last question goes to you, Don, on this one here. So, CISA, FBI, NSA, they released, the warning on April the 7th that a bunch of our, PLCs, programmable logic controllers, have been infiltrated by the Iranians in particular. What's the threshold when that moves from being like some sort of cyber espionage to a full-on act of war and ending up in a kinetic response? I mean, what level do they have to take that to before things get serious enough that we go in and try to take all of their cyber teams out?
One of the things I've been pushing for is make our cyber command more flattened, more mission command or optics tactique, empowerment, make it more aggressive to go after these people before it gets to that point. But just imagine this scenario in that they shut down a major city or even a small city or town's water treatment plant. Okay, and all the water, there's no fresh water. Okay, maybe you can live off bottled water from the stores for a couple of days because they're going to get cleaned out, Costco and everybody else. But it's not going to take much. You shut down a major water treatment plant, and last year, Richmond's plant got flooded. It flooded out the software. The backup didn't work, and it took them 3 days, and they had to tell everybody to boil water and start drinking water, and everyone was freaking out, even though it wasn't as severe as it was shut down on purpose. So that one event starts spreading disease and people start panicking out would be enough to call for a kinetic reaction. But I think the reaction will be more a cyber counterattack, a total shutdown of whoever's doing this.
Yeah, I think that's a pretty logical reaction to that as well. So we're going to go into the third and final segment here, the comms survival stack, building redundancy before the window closes. A realistic comm survival stack is not a single device or a single plan. It's a layered architecture that accounts for the specific failure sequence of a grid down comms collapse. Internet first, cellular next, emergency broadcast last, with analog radio as the only system that does not share the same failure chain. So ham radios, GMRS radios, those sort of things. The decision window for building redundant communications is measured in days, not weeks. Once a coordinated strike hits infrastructure, the supply chain for radios, batteries, hand crank receivers, comms capable devices, I don't think it would even come close to lasting 72 hours. And I say that based on when we have hurricanes here in Florida, when we know for sure, like there's a monster, like a Cat 4, Cat 5 bearing down on us, days before we get hit, everything disappears off the shelves. And then afterwards, it's not unusual for us not to see semis coming into the area with supplies until days afterwards. So it can be a long period of time, that's for sure. So you don't want to leave your comms, basically. You don't want to be reactive and leave your comms until after the fecal matter hits the oscillating device. Every American household needs a pre-agreed out-of-band communication plan that does not touch any commercial infrastructure, a written rally point, a check-in protocol with designated times, and at minimum one analog radio capability, because the family that built that plan before the strike is the family that makes decisions instead of freezing. And Don said something earlier, I can't remember exactly what it was, but I did want to mention that I'm paraphrasing Sun Tzu, but human beings never rise to the occasion. We fall to our level of training. So if you haven't played stuff out through your mind, and you haven't done the drills, and you haven't worked with stuff like your radios, when the shit hits the fan, you're not going to all of a sudden have this epiphany that, oh, okay, well, I'm going to absorb all of this ham radio stuff and have it working. It doesn't work that way. But again, this is exactly why I built the Guardian network. Real people, real-time alerts, direct comms. So you're not trying to figure this out alone, when things go dark. And again, you go to survivaldispatch.news, sign up there, $9.99 a month or $99.99 a year, gets you 2 months for free. So coming to Jeff, per usual, Jeff, what would you say is the minimum viable communications kit for a family of 4 that covers a potential 72-hour blackout with no reliance on cellular or internet infrastructure?
Well, I'm assuming if you're having a 72-hour blackout that you're not going anywhere. You're probably going to stay in your neighborhood. You're not going to be out driving around because traffic's going to be a nightmare. All the traffic lights are going to be out. The police may be out there with roadblocks stopping people from moving. So you may just need something for your neighborhood. And assuming that you've got, your food and everything squared away, you don't have to go find supplies. Then I would almost go with, go with like GMRS radios or something along those lines. One for everybody. Make sure that you're all on the same frequency, and that you've got the same. If you've got a single sideband or something like that, that you've got radios that will communicate with each other, that minimize, you can't eliminate, that minimize the chance of someone eavesdropping on you, because you don't want someone monitoring your comms and then finding out when you're not home or finding out what you've got. Because you can't use cell. You could use a POC link because it's a satellite thing, but you're going out buying 4 POC links. That's not cheap. And if it's short term, I would just go with radios.
Yeah, so the POC links don't do satellite. They do either FRS, which is OTA, or 4G LTE, or Wi-Fi.
I'm sorry. I'm thinking the Garmin Mini.
Garmin InReach Minis, yeah.
Yeah, that's what I was saying about. Sorry.
Don't mind me. I'm feeding my addiction whilst out driving.
Well, it's something I think we need to touch on too, is because internet's going to go down, all that. If there's information you need, like on survival information, how to boil water, how long to boil, all that, have it in dead tree format. And I've been on the show and I've said, you know what? Probably the most valuable thing you can have in a situation that goes on for any length of time is an old school set of encyclopedias. If you can find one that's for sale, that libraries are getting rid of them, they're all going to online stuff now. Freaking wealth of information in those things.
Yeah, I will second that. Cindy and I have a massive collection of books, aka dead tree format. Randy, so ham radio GMRS licenses are inexpensive. GMRS, you just got to pay $35. Ham, you got to take a test as you go up, like from a tech to a general, et cetera, et cetera. But what do you reckon the number one reason is that most Americans have not pursued getting set up with any type of radios?
Well, you look at, we've had good communication pretty much ever since I've been alive, whether even with the hard phones, we haven't had real trouble with communications, so I would say that we've been in the land of plenty and it just wasn't a big concern, and we certainly didn't know 20, 30, 40, 50 years ago that we would be at this point in this time. Some people probably did, but for the most part, most of us didn't. And, like anything else, not just Americans, but certainly Americans, we have to see the value in it, right, first. And so I think that most people didn't really see the value in it. Why, when you had a home phone, why would I want a radio? And then there for a while, for a good several decades, it's what truckers use CBs in there. So there was kind of a, I would say kind of a damper on it, but you know what I mean? People looked at it a little differently. And then that, they had a use for the radios. But you look at truckers today, most of them don't even have CBs. Why? Because everybody's got their phone now.
True story.
And that's what people are using. So not even used to every trucker had a CB, and that is not even close to the case anymore. And the reason is they don't see the value in it. And of course, as I mentioned already, we didn't see that we really need them to communicate, period, at some point.
Yeah. Somebody said ham radios are expensive. They can be, but they aren't barely.
Yeah, they don't have to be. It's whatever, you pay for what you can afford and what you need.
I mean, not that you're going to get spectacular distance, but you can buy a Baofeng UV5R for $17 on Amazon today. Now granted, that's not going to give you a ton of reach. It's a 5-watt radio, but if you want it, and people say ham radio without making distinctions, right? So VHF is typically it's good on water. It's not so good on land because it struggles with barriers even more than UHF does. And UHF is where GMRS lives. And then you get past that into shortwave HF high frequency. So UHF line of sight, VHF line of sight, but UHF will do a better job at contending with things like foliage and whatnot. VHF, that's for marine communications to be efficient, but shortwave HF high frequency bounces off of the ionosphere and can travel huge distances. So NVIS is near vertical for say 500 miles and in. Then you've got DX, which is longer range, 500 plus miles all the way around the world if you've got the right antennas and you've got the right wattage. But you can get in on even on shortwave HF now. The Zygu G90 is under $400, so that's a 20 watt shortwave HF radio. You compare it with a super antenna MP1 DXG for about $250 off of Amazon. You can get a special type of tripod for about $80 on Amazon for stage lighting that allows you to put that MP1 vertical or horizontal. Vertical, you get obviously shallow takeoff angles to, you know, travel long distance for DX. When you mount them horizontally, it's really close and you can shrink up that skip zone. All total tax, shipping, the whole 9 yards on that package, you're looking at less than $800. So less than $800 to get in on shortwave HF is a pretty good deal. So,
well, I just think that, you know, up to this point, it's been a hobby for people, right?
For sure.
And now it's becoming a necessity.
Well, I would back you up, Randy. I think what it is most American, pardon me, the Wasatch Wago's coming back on me. I would say most Americans, and I don't think this is, a tough one. They just assume that the grid and the phones will always work.
That's right. You don't need it. You don't need it.
They've always worked, so why would I think differently, sort of thing, right? So, Don,
well, we Americans have been learned to trust the system, which is probably going to be one of the worst things we ever learned, because 100%. In other countries, no one trusts the system.
100%. Very well said. So, Don, I just mentioned NVIS and propagating on HF, high frequency, and, that allows typically up to about 500 miles with NVIS. And again, it's really the angle that your antenna's at that determines that. How realistic? Let's two scenarios, okay? Yeah. So, Don, let's say in your part of Virginia, let's say that your family all lived within 10 miles, okay? How realistic is that? And I know the answers to these, but I just wanted to have you say it. How realistic could a family buy GMRS radios and communicate in that 10-mile area if they even had just one repeater or just one, I don't like repeaters, but one base station with half decent mast versus people who live outside of that area? Like, let's say you had family 50, 100, 200 miles away. Just, I want to get your thoughts. Like, how realistic would it be to get people set up and into that mindset?
Again, it goes to how serious is your local community or governments about this, and they're not serious at all about this as a threat because they don't want to disrupt the commerce, the economy, and the American way of life. So, just like Randy said earlier, people have, I don't think they blindly trust. It's not that they trust, they just hope. They use the hope method. They hope it never happens. But the shorter, like you said, a 10-mile radius, that's a very easy thing to invest in. It would be worth it if your family's all within that 10-mile radius. The further about, which is most families today, because we push families out for job, economic, and then ideological reasons. We don't have the family unit staying close together like we did on the rural farms a century ago. So it would be harder. But again, it's if you have a community cell of people, like I have some, like I mentioned before, close group of friends from the VFW, we talk about this stuff and we have plans, but nobody else does. They think we're kind of out there for talking about this stuff because, again, it's not that they trust the government, it will never happen, is they don't want to know it's going to happen. They just don't want to, because that makes them have to plan and take responsibility.
Yeah, true story. By the way, somebody said that, they would shut down OTA comms. Good luck with that. That's just not true. There's no technology that we know of out there that could shut down high frequency radio waves around the entire world. That's completely unbelievable for somebody.
No, it'll be in areas. I think you're right. They probably can't do the whole world, but they certainly did that palace in Venezuela. So
yeah,
we can do small areas, I would imagine, but it's not going to be the globe.
We can, and it's what the Iranians did before February 28th stuff kicked off. But there's nobody capable of taking down shortwave HF around the entire world. Period. Like it's just not going to happen. But anyway, with that being said, Jeff, coming back to you, if your neighborhood has no one with radio capability, what's the fastest way to establish some sort of local information sharing network that doesn't depend on any commercial infrastructure?
Smoke signals. I mean, if you don't have radio, I mean, you've got to have something that will, alert someone over distance. You could use whistles, I guess. That's going to be a limited range, or air horns or something like that. But even then, you got to say, what does it mean? 1 toot means this, 2 toots means that. And if it's a tight neighborhood and the lots are small and people are close, I mean, worst comes to worst, you could holler at them, or just 2 cans and a string, I guess. I don't know. But in the old days, you would jump on a horse and ride over there. Well, that's not very efficient these days, and plus, no one has horses. So, short of just being physically going over and talking to them, whistles and things like that, semaphore. I don't know.
When you mentioned cans and strings, it was one of the first things I was thinking of, just jokingly. But something else we've got into our comms plan are high-powered flashlights. This is an ace beam. It's 5,000 lumens. I have some that are 80,000 lumens, that are insane.
Or even a piece of glass or a mirror.
Yeah,
you need some sort of code, though. So
that's right.
A flash, one flash means this, 2 flashes means that. Up, down, right, left. It's just like semaphores. Yeah, semaphores are great if you know what the semaphore code is. If you're not, it's just some idiot waving a flag.
Yeah, so like I'm thinking in a neighborhood, like I'm looking over here at some LEP flashlights. So those are laser emitting phosphorus. They shoot like a super tight beam. If somebody is not in front of you or behind you, you're not going to see it, but you can light up a stop sign quite literally half a mile away, like nothing, right? Those are really good for communication purposes as well. And of course, I have a flash. Just like this is now the 3rd dill pickle, by the way. So it's always a toss up with me. Like right now, within like
the Wasatch,
within a 10-foot radius right now, not a word of a lie, there's about 40 ace beam flashlights.
I've got an Olight here, which can get very, very bright, but you got to have a system.
You do. I would give you all, pretty much anything I have, but don't touch my Wasatch wagon. Don't touch my flashlights. Don't touch my guns.
Can we get your dogs?
Yeah, or the dogs.
And we're probably okay. Somebody said, where'd I get all these fancy flashlights? acebeam.com. There may even be a discount code on our Substack. Go to survivaldispatch.news. Check on the bottom right-hand side where it says something like partners or sponsors. There's probably a link to AceBeam there. 10% off would be my guess. I don't remember, to be quite frank. I don't track that stuff very much. So that being said, coming back to you, Randy. So this blackout that was in Berlin this year, January 2026, I mean, it all went down, right? So all the cell phones went down, the power grid went down. I mean, what's the most important lesson we can learn from that? But I don't think that a lot of people will learn a lesson from it, because I don't think they're paying attention. But if they were paying attention, what's the lesson to be taken away from that, Randy?
Well, to your point, it'd have to be the people that can do something. Their job is to do something about this or to stop this kind of thing. And you're right. I don't think that we're going to see any of that. What I would say is, I would say that it's a warning. I would bet that was a probe, because, they were testing something out and it worked very well as far as we can tell anyway. I don't know. Maybe it didn't, but as far as we can tell, it shut down all communications and everything else. So that would be very effective. And if you were going to use a tactic like that, you would want to try it out first, right, to make sure it worked. So maybe that's what that was. And for us, maybe we should have learned and then maybe started doing something about hardening up these systems, but we just haven't. You know, I wish things were differently. I wish we could say, hey, you know what? Let's just all walk up there and tell them they're going to do this, but that's not the way it works. So, you know, I kind of doubt anything's going to happen until something does happen.
Yeah.
And to Jeff's point, we'll just go back to what we did before all this, right? Because we've been around a lot longer than any of this technology has been. So we're talking the last 150 years we have all this technology, and that's it. You go back before that, we could stack stones. There's a bunch of different ways to communicate, but we'll have to figure all that out because right now no one is working through those issues. So it'll be the people left that survive all of it that will be left to figure it out and determine what that is.
True story. True story. So Don, if we recommend to people all the time, at the very least, have a hand crank AM, FM, NOAA radio. If you go to our Substack, I'm trying to remember the dates now. I think that the 2026 SHTF comms part 2 is public now. And we've got a whole bunch of stuff that Dr. Mike and I tested, and you can get those hand crank radios. We bought one, I think it was Raynic, RAYNIC, for like $35 and did surprisingly well. I mean, you can step up to a Midland and spend 50, 60, $80 in a New York minute. And the Midlands are definitely top of the line quality wise, but you don't have to spend a lot of money on them. How many Americans do you think would even know how to operate those radios? Because you have to essentially know, you know, where the NOAA frequencies are to get all of that sort of stuff.
I get Randy laughing.
Well, the thing about it, Chris, is they should have plenty of time to figure it out at that point, right? It might take them some time to figure all that out, but they will.
Yeah, I mean, I think what happens with a lot of people, I've seen it happen too many times, is people buy different types of radios. Could be, you know, GMRS radio, could be hand crank radio. They turn it on. Oh, it turns on. They turn it off. They throw it in the drawer and they wait for, you know, SHTF to happen. But anyway, at the end of the day, Don, what would you guesstimate as far as a percentage of our population who have any idea how to use an emergency radio?
Less 1%.
Wow. Okay.
Yeah, the reason I say that is, again, I look around me, and when I bring this stuff up, even at the Veterans of Foreign Wars, but most of the veterans there are support logistical guys that were very niche MOS. They don't want to talk about it or it's not interested. But a guy like me, I ordered my solar generator, and the first thing I did as soon as I got it was I went out and set it up and tested it and
right on
there and figured everything out. And then I redo it. I got to redo it in a month because it's been a year and a half since I took it out. So I just remember how to do it all, set it up. And that just takes self-discipline.
Safety tip on solar generators.
Yeah.
You got to plug them in periodically because they have a computer on board and that will slowly drain it. We had a power outage here. I plugged mine in. It lasted for about an hour because I hadn't kept it. I charged it initially. So now I plug it in like once a week overnight just to top it off. Well,
thank you for that reminder because I got to do that again. I remember that from a year ago, plugging it in every week or month or so and charging it all the way up. But thank you.
So for us on a team, you test that stuff several times a year.
Yep.
Once, you know what I mean? When I get the orders to get deployment, that the week before we go, I go in and we test every radio we're bringing, every mic, every wire, every single piece that you're going to use, you have to test and make sure it works. Because trust me, this is what happens. And if I hadn't done it, so you go over, right? And one of the reasons I tested everything before we went over, because now it's going to be put in boxes and in crates and pallets and however it's going to get over there, it's going to get over there. And it's going to be a month or two later. Anything can happen between there and now. So there are times that I've tested equipment at home. And then when we get there and pulled it out, a wire or something didn't work. Had I not tested it and been able to tell them, nope, we tested it on this date and this time before we left and everything worked, and now it doesn't work, I would have gotten fired for not testing the stuff before we go. And there are people that do that, unfortunately. So just realize you need, certainly in any kind of communications equipment, you need to test every bit of that, all the wiring, everything you're ever possibly going to use before you go or before you use it. I would do that like right now.
So I have hands-on tested hundreds of power stations, absolutely hundreds of them. And there's a massive difference in battery quality amongst the different brands, okay? And Dabson is by far the cheapest price per watt hour for super high quality LiFePO 4 batteries. And we have Dabson power stations that we have purposely not plugged in for extended periods of time, 12 plus months, and turned them on, and they've had 99% charge in them. The battery is not consistent across them. Like the old batteries that power stations used to have are absolutely brutal. They've got like 1,000 charge cycles and that's it. In recent years, they've gone to all LiFePO 4s, but I've seen people rate them for 5,000 charge cycles, and we've got about 50 charge cycles and the battery's completely dead. So, well,
there's a lot of stuff that affects it. If there's cold weather, you need to keep those batteries where it's warm, because cold weather will zap your battery. Absolutely. If you don't leave them in the radios, if the radio needs a battery to be used and you're not using the radio, you don't leave the battery in there, because 100%. It will use the juice. Yep. There's lots of things you have to take care of these batteries, so they will take care of you, because I can promise you in communications, if you don't, they won't.
Yeah, I wasn't talking comms, I'm talking power stations.
Okay, well, but same thing.
Well, I'm telling you that I have Dabson power stations that have been unplugged for a year and still have 99% charge in them. The quality of battery
that is good. That's real good.
It is there are huge differences in power station batteries, which is why after all of the power stations I've tested over the years, the only ones that I recommend anymore are Dabson, because their performance is just spectacular. Inverters are inverters. Yeah. It's the battery that makes the power station at the end of the day. So, Jeff, if you had 48 hours before, the shit hits the fan, potential attack, hurricane, whatever the case may be, what are the 3 most important communication actions you're going to take in that window to make sure that your family has situational awareness when the calamity arrives?
Well, you're going to need to have radios of some sort. If you have to go out and buy them, then go out and buy them. And then you need a way to charge them. So you either need a generator or you need a solar generator, something like that. Because again, dead batteries, the radio is a brick. And a third thing, I think you need some sort of written plan for your family to follow, maybe brevity codes, maybe a list of frequencies you're going to use. I mean, if you wanted to be secure, you change frequencies every day, but people got to know what to change to. So you got to have a hard copy, dead tree format plan, and then radios, and then a way to charge them.
Yeah, so I would just add a couple things to that. Number one, I meant to mention earlier when you brought up GMRS. I have all kinds of GMRS radios. We don't use them for comms. We use them to spy on everybody around us, because everybody else is using those 22 channels, at least the 16 that are FRS. And so if the shit really hit the fan and all of our business class and HF stuff went down, yeah, we would revert to it. But they're great for gathering intelligence on people, number one. Number two, time of day. So in other words, at this time of day, go to this channel, and that's where we'll be, and have some easy formula to work all of that sort of stuff out.
You want it written down. You don't want to go over the radio and tell, because someone's listening, they'll just go to that channel too.
It's got to be pre-established.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, for sure. I'm going to show it in a minute here, but Greg from Wasatch Wagyu has got some killer deals going. I told you that he was going to have some stuff going. 50% off these bundles, and you can use SD20, get another 20% off. Massive discount. I'll show you in just a second. But before that, Randy, it's that time of the night. So give us the countdown. 3, 2, 1. So it is time for the Carnival Practical Payoff. This is where we cover a skill, an item, and a mindset shift relative to tonight's topic for you all to work on. Jeff, I'll come to you first. Skill, item, mindset shift.
Items. Assume your cell phones aren't going to work. Assume your internet's not going to work. You need, if you're in a limited area, you got to have some sort of radio system that will work, and you need books, magazines, documents that don't require electricity to give you information.
Good advice, Jeff. Randy, skill. Well, hold on a second. He took the item. So skill or mindset shift?
I guess I'm going to go with learn how to work your radios, right? Get a skill set of certainly even what we talked about, the hand crank ones. Most of them are fairly cheap, and you're going to be your first go-to. But if you don't have anything else and you could still crank that up, you'll be able to get some information. But learn how to work those radios, how to set them up, how to take them down, how to use them. It's not overly complicated, but it's something you need to go through. So, because you definitely don't want to start trying to do it when you really need to. Yeah.
So, Randy, let me ask you this question. What do you reckon the percentage of people is who go out and they buy, a radio like a Baofeng UV5R because they're so cheap and readily available, and they look at the box and it says, 30-mile range, 35-mile range. They turn it on, they test it, and they put it away. And then lo and behold, when the shit does hit the fan, if they can even figure out how to use them, they realize it's 1.5 miles max in an urban environment.
Because, you're right. Most of them probably tested if they had two in the same room. Or they walked across the other side of the house. Let's see if it works.
When I got mine, I took one, got in my little golf cart, and I left one with my wife, and I drove around and would do tests. So I know where my limit is. And it's basically in this valley I live in. But once you go over the hill, you lose line of sight. They're gone.
Yeah, 100%.
But it allows me, I can talk to anybody in my neighborhood and almost my brother-in-law's house, but I'm not going to be talking to people who live 4 or 5 miles away.
I've lost track of how many times I've heard somebody say, yeah, I bought this radio off of Amazon, and we're good because we all live inside this 35-mile circumference. I'm like, yeah, you're not good, man. Like, not even close.
I don't think any of them ever actually do what they say they're going to that way, because it's always line of sight, except for the other frequencies.
Do you know how they get around that? Do you know what, without being nailed with false advertising? It's a mathematical formula. So, so basically, you can take the wattage, you can take the dB gain of an antenna, and you can say in perfect conditions, the math says this radio would do 35 miles. But I mean,
well, yeah, if you're on top of Mount Everest,
and you got a relay, that's out there also to help boost that signal. I will say, though, I noticed 4 people in the chat today, I think it was 4, said that their Carnival order arrived today. So, man, hats off to you guys. Thanks a lot.
Yeah, for sure. Thank you, for sure. Don, sorry, last but not least, give us a mindset shift that you think the audience should work on in light of all this.
I learned this from the time I was started to study military history, and as a cadet, you prepare for the worst, everything else comes easy. So don't be afraid to prepare for the worst, at least even mentally go through a scenario. What's the worst thing that can happen? What would I do? What would my family do? So the mindset is don't be afraid to plan, or at least think about the worst thing that can happen in one of these situations we've been talking about. And then everything else will come easier.
Yeah, well, again, but to steal from Sun Tzu, to paraphrase, human beings don't rise to the occasion. They follow their level of training.
Yep.
And, nobody all of a sudden becomes proficient at something when, stress is high and the shit's hitting the fan.
Exactly.
Check out these deals here. Let me get one pulled up here. So here's one of them for y'all.
Oh, dang.
So check this out. So it's normally $6 for each one, right? Like full retail price. SD20 would get you 20% off that, but Greg cut these in half, 50% off, so it's $30. Then you use the SD20 coupon and you get another $6 off. It's $24. It's $2.40 a piece for super high premium Wagyu. And here's the deal. you know, he sells a lot of Wagyu beef at local markets to local people. And he has tomahawks that are $100 a pound, 4 pounds, they're friggin' $400. This is like, you know, top of the food chain for quality. To be able to get them at that kind of price, and you won't be disappointed. Here's another one. So he's got another bundle on, which is sweet and spicy hot honey that he's doing as well. So I'm going to put those links down in the live chat so everybody can take advantage of it. Use the discount code SD20. And with that being said, I would be remiss if I didn't mention our primary sponsor, Carnival. And don't go anywhere. I'm fixing to go into a Sitrep. So I see some people logged off. Hang in there because I've got a little bit of current news to cover. But carnival.com, I'll tell you what, with the price of beef, what's happening to it, the best thing you can do is sign up for a subscription, lock your price in for 12 months. Randy's pointing at the logo there. You can get a subscription for as little as $99 a month. And again, your price is locked in for 12 months. Last year, 49% year over year wholesale price increase in beef. So
probably not going to get better either.
We'll never see prices as low as they've been. That's for sure. And I rarely use the word never. So once we get rolling here, I'll put links down for Carnival, I'll put links down for Wasatch Wagyu, the discount codes. There's no discount code on subscriptions at Carnival, but if you want to do a one-off purchase, you can use the code EATMEAT, all one word, get 10% off. Don, I'm assuming that you've got a jet based on the time. So appreciate your insight, Don, and we'll see you again next Wednesday.
I appreciate learning from you guys. You guys, God bless you and have a good week.
Yep, good to see you, Don.
All right, take care, Don. So, Jeff, Randy, you got time to do like a 15, 20-minute sit rep?
Sure.
Okay, cool beans, because there's definitely been some shit that's been going on. Let me get the first one up here. And it looks like
this. John Fernandez says he thinks his mail person got a hernia for delivering his order today. Boy, you must have bought a nice size order there, buddy.
He's got a really wimpy mail person.
That's right. One or two.
Don't tell Cindy.
Oh, you already got another one? Woo!
Hey, better watch it, buddy. She and I are Facebook friends now.
That's right.
You know what they say? You mess with the bull, you get the horn.
Yeah, she's the bull. She's gonna kill you.
So true story here. I've got another entire box here, and I have a few more beside me that I plan on devouring before we wrap up tonight.
You're
as well.
just greedy.
I give you just about anything. You can't have my wife. You can't have my Wasatch Wagyu. You can't have my guns, and you can't have my flashlights. But anything else, happy to share with you. All right, let's get into the first one here. And it's good to see the British standing up for themselves, but I don't know if it's too little too late or not.
Yeah.
It could be, right, Randy? I mean,
I think so.
Could very well be too little too late. So
I just hope we don't follow in their footsteps. That's what I hope.
Yeah.
I will comment on that, not when we're not live. Thousands of patriots stormed the streets in a town near London after a woman was gang raped outside a church. Wait till you see the rape numbers where they were 20 years ago versus where they are now because of these Muslim invaders. Anyway, so Eric Doherty says, was it Muslim migrants? Yeah, it was. Riot police were deployed in Epsom against the locals who want answers. Keep standing up for your people. 16 seconds. So it's not like a peaceful protest where they're, doing violent things or anything, but Jeff, come to you first. Thoughts on the British? Have they crossed the Rubicon, or is there still a chance they might be able to save their country?
Well, they're about knee deep in it. I'll say that. If they're going to save their country, they need to get off their lily white asses and act. Yeah. And they need to read the riot act to their own damn politicians, because they stand up, they say something, their politicians throw them in jail for complaining about the rapes. No, the rapists need to go. Either one way or the other, they need to get rid of those folks. 100%.
Well, they all have to go because they're not compatible. Randy, your thoughts on the invaders in Europe? Is it gone too far?
Well, I think that it possibly has, because we've watched it over the last 5 years, and you think, man, But I think Jeff's right. If they don't get out and do something now, it definitely will be too late. I don't think they have any time left to play with. And I think this is what we'll have to do. Doesn't mean you got to go out there and do like the 2019, the Summer of Love. But going out there, including when they come out to arrest people and everybody asks them about, what are they doing? Why are you arresting the people that are not committing the crimes, but the rapist you're not arresting? Yeah, sooner or later, we're going to have to call them on that. And I hope that they come out and do it now because, again, as we've said on the show many times, we're watching them worried about what's coming here after.
Yeah, and absolutely. We're seeing the same things here. So, I've got some numbers coming up, but check this one out. I don't know if I'm not playing this video because Lord only knows what CommiTube would do to us, but Naomi Guzman stole a large kitchen knife from a Walmart in Omaha, Nebraska, then kidnapped a 3-year-old boy and held him hostage. Police arrived and she slashed at the boy, prompting the responding officer to use his Glock to punch 9mm holes in her torso. Ms. Guzman died from her wounds, saving taxpayers millions of dollars. As you would 100% expect, Ms. Guzman has multiple prior arrests, including a 2024 stabbing her father, then attempting to light her father on fire. She also previously broke into a local church, held the priest hostage with a knife. Again, as you would expect, she was found not responsible for reasons of insanity and released back into the community to harm this young boy. So again, I'm not going to play the video. She slashed the shit out of his face. He had to have extensive surgery. Yeah. Jeff, I mean, we've talked this countless times. Is there any way to fight back against these activist judges who keep unleashing these savages on us?
Well, I think the cop did the right thing.
Boy,
yeah, it's and this whole thing is, they're not competent enough to stand trial. Okay, if we're not going to put them in an insane asylum for the rest of their life, we're not going to put them in prison for the rest of their life. Why are we releasing them? Because all they do is commit more and more crimes. I have no problem when these people say you can't execute them because they're crazy. Sure you can. And that's probably why you should.
Oh, God bless
you. Charles Manson, he's probably nuts. He probably was nuts. They should have fried his ass.
Yeah, 100%. 100%.
Well, they did. They never let him out, though. They never let him out.
They didn't. And he was sentenced to death, but then the idiot Supreme Court overturned all the death penalty stuff from like 72 or whatever it was.
Yeah. And then once they came back, you can't convert them back because that's
you should.
They should have. Yes, they should have. And, just like this, I'm in the same boat. These judges are going to have to start being held accountable just like the bartenders are. This is ridiculous. It's gone way too far. It's past the point where we need to hold them accountable because they all, as we all know, these judges walk around like they're holier than thou and that they're in self-entitlement. They're better than everybody else. Not all of them, but there is a fair majority of them that do. And any judges ruling this kind of thing and letting these kind of people go, they need to feel the consequences. Otherwise, if we're not going to throw the judges in jail over it, maybe we should force them to live with these criminals, like move these criminals into their house.
Absolutely.
Let them live with them.
Yeah, wouldn't that be glorious?
Move them into the guest rooms.
So from the same bizarro world, check this shit out. Abolishing whiteness has never been more urgent. So it goes on. I'm not going to play all the music. No, there isn't a white genocide. Yeah, there sure is. Yes, diversity is about getting rid of white people, and that's a good thing. The white race is the cancer of history. Anti-white hate is Jewish. Let me see. Young white people are on an endangerment list, unlike, say, the bald eagle or some exotic species of muskrat. You are not worth saving. In 40 years or so, maybe there won't be any more white people around, and that's a good thing. And on and on and on and on. LBJ, Immigration Nationality Act, Naturalization Act. What was it called? The 1965 Immigration Naturalization Act.
INS Act. Immigration.
Yeah. So at that point in time, 33% of the global population was Caucasian. Now it's 8%. What do you think of this stuff, Joe?
Well, at the risk of sounding like, oh, you're a white supremacist, Europeans, people of European descent, be they Russian or British or German or French or American, built 99% of the stuff that we use today. They invented it. Cars, airplanes, electricity, light bulbs, electric motors, computers. And and these people act like that was a bad thing. No, it was a great thing. And this idea that, oh, we don't need white people. Well, if your planet was built by white people. Everything good in your life, for the most part, was built by white people. Get over it. If you have running water, thank a white guy. If you have electric lights in your home, thank Thomas Edison. And I don't understand why people want to get rid of it because they're jealous. Okay, it's not fair that white people have invented these things, and white people have the money because they invented these things. Who should get money for SpaceX if not Elon Musk?
So, quick question for the audience. Apparently, it looks like we need to take up a collection for Jeff so that he can re-up his Netflix, because clearly he hasn't been watching Netflix, which tells us that every important thing that's been developed by mankind has been made by Africans. Every last bit of it.
Well, other than the stoplight, I don't know what.
Mud huts.
There you go.
Yep. High-tech mud huts.
Well, if you look at it today, they're trying to insert into Texas schools that the Alamo is Muslim, and it's an Islam structure, and that somehow Muslims had something to do with Texas history. No joke. This is a fight going on right now in the state of Texas, and they're trying to force that into Texas education. So now we teach our kids that instead of the truth.
Yeah.
Revisionist history. It's complete bullshit. Here's another one here. Check it out. It's been revealed that a Charlotte, North Carolina woman who was just arrested for stabbing her boyfriend to death with a steak knife was released on a $5,000 bond for assaulting him with broken glass 1 month ago. Matt Van Swal says, stop letting violent criminals out of jail. We could do a podcast that spoke of nothing but this shit, where people are set free by these activist judges, and we would never run out of content, unfortunately. This is a 15-second video. We got to watch this. If this doesn't make the testosterone course through your body, then there's no hope for you.
Cool.
What a badass job. I mean, too much fun. But you check this out, movie idea. A modern day Robin Hood, but instead of robbing the rich, he liberates neighborhoods from flock cameras. A vigilante armed with nothing but a green hoodie, a sawzall, and a deep hatred of surveillance. Hollywood, call me. This is $1 million idea. So I don't know what they're called in England. Do you know, Jeff? Because people have been taking them down over there.
Well, they've got there's a camera system they have that looks at your license plate and makes sure that you're in the right neighborhood. That when they have restrictions on who can drive in a certain neighborhood, and then they if you go into one that has the restrictions, they fine you or they charge you for doing it. So people have been running around, just cutting those things down right and left because they can't go to work or they drive through a certain neighborhood and they end up getting fined, and the fines are not insignificant. Yeah,
it's a bunch of communists, right? I don't know if
they are all communists.
I don't know.
Well, the only thing I'll add is that somebody said a week or two ago that we kind of I passed on. I don't know who needs to hear this, but I heard there's like 2 pounds of copper in each one of those things.
I thought it was more like 4 or 5. What gold wiring and silver?
That's right, man. I don't know who needs to hear that, but somebody out there does.
That is too freaking funny. Here's the numbers. Check this out. rape statistics out of Europe. Okay. So in the year 2000, England and Wales, 8,593 rapes. 2023, 68,109.
Wow.
Germany, 8,133 in the year 2000, 39,029 in the year 2023. France, 7,500 in the year 2000, 42,400 in 2023. Poland in the year 2000, 2,399. They don't let these Muslim invaders in. 2,399 in the year 2000, 1,127 in 2023.
See, I like Poland because even those other numbers are way too high in the 2000. To me, I'm like 8,500. What the heck's going on?
Yeah.
But it's definitely better than 68,000.
Yeah.
I'm going to tell you, I'm either dead or prison. I don't put up with that. It ain't going to happen here. It ain't going to happen here.
It's already happening is the problem.
Well, maybe in New York City, but it hadn't come to Texas yet. So, but I'm watching. I'm keeping an eye out.
Listen to this lunatic here, guys. Holy crap. A Democrat rep, Bonnie Coleman, just called for President Trump to be eliminated. Listen to this. He's got to have like the IQ of a fucking refrigerator.
Because if we wanted to eliminate abuse and fraud, we'd eliminate the president of the United States from the office right now and the rest of the sycophants in his administration that are allowing him to do so many illegal things. So
she can spew this crap, but if either of us or any of us said something like that, we would be poof gone.
Oh, yeah. If we said it about her right now, they'd show up at our door.
Secret Service or FBI would be on our doorstep.
Yeah.
It's literally on the tip of my tongue.
But you know, you look at it, you even look in her eyes, you could see there's an evilness in that woman, period. Just in her look in her face and her eyes. Yeah, definitely a whack job.
Look at this little stick boy Muslim. And he starts arguing with this white guy, you know, and he's getting all bowed up on him and everything. The white guy would squash. I'm not going to play the video because these people are fucking idiots. Like, there's no other way to put it. Here we go back to the flock.
No.
Whatever you do not use the hose lock pressure sprayer that totally doesn't reach about 9 feet and goes for around $40 on Amazon on flock cameras. That would be deeply inconvenient for their business model, turning our neighborhoods into panopticons. 13 seconds.
Now, this is epic.
Emulsion, 60% water, 40%. Get spraying and help the poor, old, and vulnerable. Worked quite well with paint. Look at this. Gunther Eagleman says disgraceful. House votes 219 to 209 to block Trump from deporting illegal Haitians. 219 House members, including 6 Republicans, voted to block Trump and stop the deportation. And this shitbag in the corner just murdered somebody here in Florida, if memory serves me right. Yeah. Man, you're not going to listen to that crap.
Well, but the question is, do they have any authority? Because if he says, no, I'm just going to deport him anyway, it's not a law. It's just them voting. And if it was going to be a law, the Senate would have to approve it, and then Trump could veto it, and they'd have to override his veto. So I think it's just window dressing. But you need to find the 6 Republicans and primary them.
Yeah, 100%. 100%. Check this out. Think you know what a mosque is? Think again. This is from Texas GOP, by the way. This is something every Texan needs to hear. Thank you to John Guandolo for sharing this perspective. Take a moment to watch. Full episode is now live on YouTube.
Large percentage of Americans, when you ask them, what do you think a mosque is? They say it's like a Muslim church. Wrong. Primarily, they're an outpost of the Islamic State where they govern and Sharia is imposed. It's where they train people. It's where they train jihadis. It's where they store weapons and ammo. It's where they plan battles, and it's the place from which they launch battles. If you ask guys that served in Afghanistan, Iraq, how many of the mosques that you patrolled by did you get engaged, shot at from?
Yeah.
And I have always gotten the same answer. All of them. We had a case in Detroit several years ago with a guy named Lukman Abdullah, the imam, who was killed in a gunfight with the police and the FBI. And everyone's like, they're so radical. What's radical about it? That's what they teach 11 and 12-year-old children. He participated in weapons and firearms training inside the mosque. So when we see like the East Valley View Mosque over in Irving, where is it? About 100 yards away from a high school. And it looks like a fortress.
Yeah, true story. Randy, I mean, you're at ground zero here. Things are bad in Texas, man.
Well, yeah, I think if it's bad in Texas, it's probably bad everywhere, but you do have a lot of space here. And we do have somewhat of a lot of freedoms, right? It's not like California. So I don't know what my point is, and I've said this already on the show. He's exactly right. One of the biggest issues we had, whether it was in Iraq or Afghanistan, is because our own higher ups said, you can't go in the mosque. You can't attack the mosque. You can't do nothing to the mosque, period. So as soon as that happened, and they were already doing it, but the moment that happened, every one of those mosques became an outpost, literally that day, boom. And that's where they stored all the weapons. That's where they had all the bad guys and all the explosives. They stopped keeping them in their houses because why? Because we were allowed to blow in their doors and come find them. And so in the beginning, we used to find them with all that stashed at their house. Shortly thereafter, that stopped happening. They were there, but for the most part, now there were still some exceptions, and they all had some sort of digital stuff. But the reality is they start storing all the stuff in the mosque because we couldn't go in there. It will be no different here. And trust me, just like them building 42 mosques in the last 24 months in the Dallas-Fort Worth area, there's a reason for that. And it's not because we have that many Muslims and they're trying to spread the message. That's not what this is about. And I think there's 300 or 400 now across the state of Texas.
So Texas, California, a couple other states are getting hammered with this relative to other states. This is just one of many graphics out there that shows how bad it is. You got 313,000 Muslims now in Texas, but if you look at other states, 12,000, 15,000, 3,000. Go to California, 500,000. Bottom half of Illinois, 473,000, 725 in New York. I mean, Texas is being targeted because whatever way Texas goes, that's the way the world goes.
Well, as I've said for a long time, the Bushes own the state. You know what I mean? And I know that the Bushes are good friends with a lot of the Muslims. They just are.
Well, yeah, true story. I mean, global.
No, it is. It's a fact.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that's why they're here. I have no doubt that's how they got here. Which one is that? It's the this is the little window, though. I can't. Is it the coffee or the peppered?
Just the salt and pepper. That's it. It's outstanding, man. I'm probably eating I figure I'm about 3,000 calories in Wasatch Wagyu during tonight's podcast. I mean, I won't have to eat again until tomorrow. The rate that I'm going here. All right. Let's see here. This is kind of interesting. U.S. Central Command has posted a video of a U.S. warship making a broadcast on Marine VHF Channel 16 to ships about the blockade of Iran. 26 seconds. I'll play it instead of reading it.
The U.S. has announced a formal blockade of Iranian ports and coastal areas. This is illegal action. All vessels are advised to immediately return to port if leaving and discontinue transit to Iran if that is your next port of call. Do not attempt to breach the blockade. Vessels will be boarded for interdiction and seizure transiting to or from an Iranian port. Turn around and prepare to be boarded. If you do not comply with this blockade, we will use force. The whole of the United States Navy is ready to force compliance. Now.
What do you think of that, Jeff?
Well, he pretty much said it. Don't screw this.
That's right.
Yeah,
the whole of the Navy.
Yeah.
I think I would heed that warning.
I would coming from a cruiser or something like that.
Oh, absolutely.
Frigate? Yeah.
So I'm going to find the next one. Here we go. Well, this one's too long, man. I'd like to play it. It's well worth listening to, but the United States has got to get its beef business back in order.
Oh, for sure.
Our beef industry is in deep, deep trouble. Like deep, deep trouble. Check this out. Sons of bitches. You want to talk about getting high-speed lead poisoning? Dogs are being poisoned in parks across modern England. We all know who's doing this, and laws are being changed so you can't even mention who's doing it under the guise of phobia. Warning. Let me see. So April 14th, 2026, rat poison blocks found in Chelsea Park this morning. See pic. Found at bottom entrance on Chelsea Road near First Tree on right. Also found in gardens on Brincliffe Crescent. Man, you hurt my dogs.
Oh,
it's all over. That's all there is to it. I don't know if you want to add to that or not, Randy. How's your blood pressure?
Well, I'm in the same boat, man. You come mess with my dog, it's like messing with one of my kids. I'm going to be the one going to prison. You wish you were going to prison after I get done with you.
At my age, life in prison doesn't mean as much.
That's right. It's a lot shorter.
Yeah. I hear you. So check out the Australians here. This is what happens when you give up your guns. This is pretty crazy. So man tried hiding guns in a secret bunker. 1 minute, 30 seconds.
Just a couch at a place in the suburbs. No, not by a long shot.
Oh, wow.
The police reaction. Seeing the secret entrance revealed to a gun lover's treasure trove. Officers finding a range of weapons at the property, handguns, shotguns, more than 1,000 rounds of ammunition, plus a workbench equipped to model.
Oh my God. Can you imagine 1,000 rounds of ammunition?
What was that guy thinking?
There's a Vietnam ammo can at my feet right now.
Oh,
that has well over 5,000 rounds of Pilgrim ammunition, 9mm in it. And
I'm like, all I want is, hey, I want a room like that, buddy.
Yeah.
Let's get the construction going.
You got to step it up a bit here, though. 1,000 rounds.
I mean the room. Yeah.
No, I know what you're saying, but the way they say it, like, oh my God, 1,000 rounds. Yeah. Okay. Let's listen to the rest of it.
By firearms, even an underground shooting range, complete with pulley systems.
Oh, I like that.
To set the target.
A bunker, an underground shooting range, an arsenal of firearms right in suburban Perth. It's just incredible.
The stash also included a 50 caliber rifle with ammo, a weapon designed to penetrate armored vehicles, even buildings.
We also found a suppressors, which are like a silencer. That's illegal. Body armor, illegal.
Oh, goodness.
Unsecured ammunition and unlicensed ammunition, illegal.
Across Australia, it's the fear of police that guns like these can and do.
So wait a minute, this guy had a bunker, but he had unsecured ammo?
Every time I see a firearms burglary,
hidden bunker.
More than 10, sometimes 20 and 30 firearms are being taken from a house.
The bunker builder, there in the orange shirt, former professional fighter David Iceman Letizia, pleading guilty to several firearms charges. He was fined just over $3,000 with the weapons destroyed. He's also been charged with building it without council approval.
That ain't gonna friggin' happen.
Well, that's what you get for telling somebody about it, dude.
Well, he was in the wrong country.
That's right.
Yeah, no kidding at all. Let me see if I can pull this up. Yeah, this is a pretty crazy video. I think I'm showing Jeff. I don't know if I'm showing Randy or not. Let me see if I can get it to open on this system here. Yeah, it probably won't because it's a .mov. Give me a second or see if
Congress looks to ban hunting with dogs.
Yeah, so isn't that crazy? I'm going to play that in a second. There's no video.
Retrievers when you're duck hunting.
That's right.
Buried inside the Farm Bill is an amendment backed by 29 members of Congress that would effectively ban hunting and dogs nationwide. No hounds for bear, no rabbit dogs, no coon hunting, no field trials. It was pushed through on a voice vote disguised as an anti-greyhound racing bill, while the real impact on hunting was barely discussed. This is a direct attack on one of the oldest hunting traditions in America. We need to stop it now. Call your representative and demand this amendment be removed from the farmers bill. Make it clear hunters are paying attention. Won't stop here. Let me see if I can share this video. It won't play in in Chrome because of the format. You know what? I'm going to go to the next thing and I'm going to convert it to an MP4 so you guys can see it because it's a crazy video. All right, let's see here. Let's get past that. Yeah, wait, here, check this out. Dearborn, 26-year-old Adi Mughali Al Sadi just got federally charged after the FBI linked exactly 35,002 files of child.
How many?
35,002. It also includes things like them being raped. It is like just beyond heinous stuff. Like it's just insane. So,
and I'll tell you, if there's one thing that could get me back to work, would be in that field. If I was actually going to go back and take a regular time gig carrying a gun, it would be to fight pedophiles and all this ridiculousness.
Yeah, no kidding. So I think I found a way to share this. We'll wrap up on this. So I'm not going to disclose what the location is, but that's a bullet trap, much like you saw in that video that the guy had in his bunker down below. And this is a 300 rum, so Remington Ultramag. It's a beast. And these rounds were packed hot, so they were well over 70,000 PSI chamber pressure.
Wow.
I'll explain it after you watch the video here. Check this out. It's only 21 seconds long, and that's me, of course.
You got two in there. Okay. So take the first one, then take the second one, because like all cans, it's quieter the second shot.
Once the gas is burned out of it.
Watch that again. Check this out.
It just blew that thing up, huh?
That is not
your protection off.
That was not a baffle strike. So,
that was the
whole can blew up. The whole thing blew up.
It blew the suppressor to smithereens. Let me back it up one more time so you can see the suppressor. I'll explain it in just a second, but one more time.
That's when
the suppressor blows into a bunch of. There were hunks of it buried in the back of that bullet trap. It hit me. It hit me in my right eye, which is the only eye I have vision in because I got hit in the other eye in 1996 in a wreck and lost my vision in that eye. But here you go.
Wow. Not a good advertisement for that.
No, I'm saying you are very lucky, homie.
So again, that was not a baffle strike. What that was, when you produce suppressors and you serialize them, if there's a problem with them, you have to wait till the ATF dispatches an agent to watch you destroy them and take them off the books, right? So these guys had this wall full of safes, like probably, 40 feet long of these huge safes, right? And the guy says to one of his helpers, he says, go downstairs and grab one of the 30 caliber cans and bring it up here. The kid grabbed it out of the wrong safe. The safe that he grabbed it from was waiting for the ATF to come to destroy them because when the cans were threaded, the thread depth wasn't deep enough. So as soon as the pressure hit it, it literally stripped the threads from the entire can. But then it as soon as that happened, of course, the projectile hit after it left the end of the barrel. It blew into a bunch of pieces. Like there were hunks like this big, like I said, buried in the back of that bullet trap. And it just went like right here and hit the side of my one good eye. That's why when you got one good eye, you protect it. I wear sunglasses all the time when I'm out, but anyway, enough of that craziness. So anyway, we'll end on that note. We'll be back tomorrow night, of course, at the usual time, 7 p.m. Eastern, with the next episode in our Long War series, which is Jihadi Terrorists in America Emergency Response Collapse. We are down to 10 episodes. There are 10 episodes left in the Long War series, and then we'll be pivoting into something new. We've got a new audio podcast starting a week from Saturday called Survival Dispatch Remnant. And again, it's an audio podcast, and it's a post-apocalyptic scenario, and you're going to meet the Smith family. It's some pretty cool stuff. You're going to see real people, or at least hear real people in the podcast. It's going to be a combination of entertainment and learning stuff as well. But it'll be more entertainment than anything else. So anyways, we'll be back tomorrow night, 7 p.m. Eastern, usual time. If you want to get real-time intel instead of guessing, you want to stay connected while others get isolated, get inside the Guardian network at survivaldispatch.news. It's where all of this stuff comes together. You can ask Khalid questions, me and the rest of the team. That's it. This is Chris Evans signing off. God bless our law enforcement officers. God bless our military. God bless America.
God bless.
And enjoy another Crusaders video.
The ground.